There is a tree that drops 200 pounds of free food every year. It requires no fertilizer. It requires no pesticides. It requires no irrigation once established. It fruits abundantly for over a century. Ancient civilizations called it the tree of life. Chinese emperors reserved entire forests for imperial use. The Roman Empire spread it across 3 continents. Then American cities made it illegal to plant. Not because it was dangerous, not because it invasive, not because it harmed ecosystems. They banned it because it was messy. The fruit stained sidewalks. It dropped on parked cars. It attracted birds that left droppings on property. Homeowners complained. City councils responded. A tree that feeds families for generations became illegal because it inconvenienced people who preferred ornamental landscapes over food. This is the mulberry, the tree that built the Silk Road, fed empires through famine, and was banned from American suburbs because its abundance was considered a nuisance. Welcome to history's hidden harvest. Before we unearth this forbidden tree, know that every like, every share, and every subscription helps preserve the food sources that modern life erased. If the crops empires were built on matter to you, hit subscribe and the bell. Now let us dig. The story begins in 2700 BC in ancient China. The Yellow Emperor Huangdi orders the cultivation of a tree that will transform human civilization. Not for its fruit, for its leaves. The white mulberry, Morus alba, is the only food that silkworms will eat. Without mulberry, there is no silk. Without silk, there is no trade. The emperor understood that controlling mulberry meant controlling wealth. For 3,000 years, China guarded mulberry cultivation as a state secret. Smuggling silkworm eggs or mulberry seeds carried the death penalty. The tree was too valuable to share. Silk became the most precious commodity on earth, worth more than gold by weight. Caravans carried it 4,000 miles across deserts and mountains. The route became known as the Silk Road. It connected China to Rome. It shaped the ancient world. All of it depended on one tree. But the mulberry offered more than silk. The fruit sustained entire populations. Chinese texts from the Han Dynasty describe mulberry orchards providing food security during famines. When grain harvests failed, the trees still fruited. When drought killed annual crops, the deep-rooted mulberry survived. Families who maintained mulberry trees survived crises that killed their neighbors. The fruit was eaten fresh, dried into preserves, fermented into wine, and concentrated into syrup. The leaves were fed to livestock when other fodder ran short. The bark was processed into paper and rope. Nothing was wasted. One tree provided food, fiber, medicine, and income. By the 6th century AD, silkworm eggs were smuggled to the Byzantine Empire. Mulberry cultivation spread across the Mediterranean. The Romans had already introduced black mulberry, Morus nigra, centuries earlier. Now both species covered Europe. Medieval monasteries maintained mulberry orchards. The trees required almost no care, yet produced abundantly year after year. In 1500, Spanish conquistadors carried mulberry to the Americas. By 1600, English colonists planted mulberry across Virginia, hoping to establish a silk industry. King James I personally promoted mulberry cultivation. He ordered thousands of trees planted. The silk industry failed because colonists planted black mulberry instead of white, and silkworms refused the leaves. But the trees thrived. They spread. They naturalized. By 1900, mulberry trees grew in every state. They lined streets. They shaded parks. They fruited in backyards from Maine to California. Children climbed them. Families harvested them. The trees were so common, so productive, so reliable that people took them for granted. Then the allergists arrived. In the 1930s and 40s, medical researchers began studying pollen allergies. Mulberry trees produce abundant pollen in spring. Male trees, which produce pollen but no fruit, became suspects in rising allergy rates. Studies were inconclusive. Mulberry pollen is heavy and does not travel far. It falls near the tree rather than drifting for miles like ragweed. But the perception spread. Mulberry became associated with allergies. Cities responded with bureaucracy. In 1949, Tucson, Arizona became the first major city to ban new mulberry plantings. The stated reason was allergy control. El Paso followed, Albuquerque followed, Las Vegas followed, Phoenix followed. Across the American Southwest, mulberry planting became illegal or restricted. But here is what the ordinances actually accomplished. They ban all mulberry trees, including female trees that produce fruit but no pollen. They banned fruitless male cultivars specifically bred to eliminate the mess. They banned a century-old food source to address an allergy problem that subsequent research showed mulberry barely contributed to. The real complaints were never about allergies, they were about fruit. Mulberry trees are prolific. A mature tree produces 150 to 300 pounds of berries annually. The fruit ripens over 6 to 8 weeks. It falls when ripe. It stains concrete purple. It stains cars. It stains shoes. Birds eat the fruit and deposit purple droppings on everything below. For a culture that prioritized pristine lawns and clean sidewalks over food production, mulberry was intolerable. Homeowners associations classified it as a nuisance tree. Landscaping guides recommended removal. Nurseries stopped stocking it. Cities that did not ban it simply stopped planting it. A tree that fed civilizations for 5,000 years was erased from American landscapes because the fruit was inconvenient. The nutritional profile reveals what was lost. 100 grams of fresh mulberries contains 43 calories, 1.4 grams of protein and 9.8 grams of carbohydrates. The vitamin C content reaches 36 milligrams, comparable to oranges. Iron content is nearly 2 milligrams, remarkable for a fruit. Mulberries provide potassium, vitamin K, vitamin E, and significant dietary fiber. But the real value lies in compounds modern medicine is only beginning to understand. Mulberries contain resveratrol, the same antioxidant celebrated in red wine. They contain anthocyanins at concentrations that exceed blueberries. A 2017 study published in the Journal of Functional Foods found that mulberry consumption significantly reduced LDL cholesterol and triglycerides in human subjects. Research from Khon Kaen University in Thailand, published in 2018, documented that mulberry leaf extract improved blood sugar regulation in diabetic patients. The leaves contain compounds that slow carbohydrate digestion, preventing glucose spikes. For 5,000 years, Chinese medicine prescribed mulberry for what they called wasting thirst disease. Modern science calls it diabetes. The ancients were correct. Dr. Maria Angeles Martin at the Spanish National Research Council published findings in 2020 showing mulberry anthocyanins cross the blood-brain barrier and accumulate in brain tissue. The implications for cognitive health and neurodegenerative disease prevention are still being studied. A tree banned for staining sidewalks may protect against Alzheimer's disease. Here is what makes the mulberry economically threatening. A single tree, once established, produces food for 100 years or more. It requires no annual seed purchase. It requires no fertilizer in reasonable soil. It requires no pesticide because few pests bother it. It requires no irrigation after the first few years. The deep taproot finds water that shallow-rooted plants cannot access. 200 pounds of fruit per year for a century for free. One tree provides what would cost a family over $500 annually at grocery store prices. 10 trees provide complete fruit security for a household. A small orchard provides enough to share, trade, and preserve. The fresh produce industry generates over $70 billion annually in the United States alone. That industry depends on consumers buying fruit transported thousands of miles from centralized production zones. A tree in every backyard threatens the entire model. You cannot charge for what falls from the sky. You cannot create scarcity when abundance grows on every street. You cannot maintain premium prices for imported berries when local trees drop superior fruit for free. So the tree became messy, problematic, banned, and a generation grew up never tasting what their grandparents ate every summer. Identifying mulberry is simple. The tree grows 30 to 50 feet tall with a broad spreading crown. The bark is grey-brown with shallow furrows. The leaves are the key identifier. They vary dramatically in shape, even on the same branch. Some are simple ovals. Others have deep lobes like mittens. No other common tree shows such leaf variation. The fruit resembles elongated blackberries, 1 to 2 inches long. White mulberries produce pale pink to white fruit. Red mulberries produce dark red to purple fruit. Black mulberries produce deep purple, almost black fruit. All are edible. All are delicious. The flavor is sweet with mild tartness, somewhere between raspberry and grape. Harvest by spreading sheets beneath the tree and shaking branches. Ripe fruit falls easily. Eat fresh, freeze for smoothies, cook into jam or dry like raisins. The fruit does not store well fresh, which is precisely why commercial agriculture abandoned it. But for home production, that limitation means nothing. You eat what ripens and preserve the rest. Planting mulberry is an act of rebellion against ordinances designed to eliminate abundance. Check local regulations. Many bans apply only to specific species or to fruitless male cultivars. Many have been repealed as urban food movements gained influence. Even where bans exist, enforcement is rare for trees already established. We did not lose the mulberry. We banned it because abundance was inconvenient. Cities chose sterile ornamental trees that provide nothing over productive trees that feed families. We prioritized aesthetics over sustenance, cleanliness over nutrition, tidiness over resilience. But the trees never disappeared. They grow wild along fence rows and forest edges. They survive in older neighborhoods where no one enforced removal. They fruit every summer, whether anyone harvests them or not. Birds plant new trees constantly, spreading seeds wherever they perch. Climate change is making food systems fragile. Supply chains are stretching thin. The fruit shipped from Chile and Mexico depends on fuel, refrigeration, and stability that cannot be guaranteed. A tree that drops 200 pounds of free food every year for a century, requiring nothing but sunlight and rain, offers security that no supermarket can match. Every mulberry planted is a declaration that food matters more than sidewalk aesthetics. Every harvest is a recovery of what foolish ordinances tried to erase. The tree that built the Silk Road still grows. The fruit that fed emperors still falls. The only thing standing between families and a century of free food is the willingness to plant what cities told us to forget. If this harvest revealed something for you, subscribe to History's Hidden Harvest and hit the bell. Every like and every share preserves what they tried to erase from history. The next harvest unearthed soon.